sophistication and superior customer care is what we're all about. Don't take my word for it. Check out our Google reviews. See the Weedman difference on your lawn. Go to weedman.com and get 50% off your first application with your program. Terms and conditions apply.
A team succeeds when they work together. Banking's no different. At UBT, we're in your corner for every financial move you want to make. Your money's backed by a roster of experts who put in the work to know you and your community. So whether you're opening a savings account, buying a home, or planning your future, you always know who to turn to. Working together toward your financial goals. That's a win in our playbook. Union Bank and Trust. Equal housing lender, member FDIC.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
Houses? They're expensive. And once you buy one, you're kind of stuck with it for a while. You need to make sure you get your best house for the best price. You need Ben Bleicher and his team of pros at Professional Realty Group. They'll take the time to figure out what's important for you in your dream home, and they have the expertise to find the hidden issues that could surprise you after the sale. That's professional knowledge, proactive service. We call that potential. Ben Bleicher and the team at Professional Realty Group of Berkshire Hathaway's Home Service Ambassador. Find more online at prg-ne.com.
Nutrition Authority invites you to try Anarchy, which is an exciting free workout for athletes and fitness enthusiasts who want the most out of their workout. Anarchy can only be found at Nutrition Authority. Remember, when you want results, the solution is simple. Nutrition Authority. Stop in, call, or check us out at mynutritionauthority.com.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. Live from the heart of Lincoln, America. Welcome to Ticket Weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome into the Daily Nebraskan show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. I'm Ben Droz, one of these sports writers at the DN, and I'm joined here, like every Thursday, or usually every Thursday, by Joseph Meyer.
Yes, sir.
The senior sports editor at the Daily Nebraskan. Joseph, first off, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thursday night, ready to go. NBA playoffs just around the corner.
Yep.
And
my Heat are officially just not going to do anything because Jimmy Butler's hurt. But
devastating.
We'll get to that later in the show because we got some Husker sports talk we want to get to first.
We do.
Before we have some fun with NBA. So on the Hour VIP line, we have Ben Beecham, who's been closely covering the transfer portal. Yeah, he's been a lot of stories on it. First off, Ben, do we got you?
Yes, you do.
Awesome. Ben, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you guys doing?
Oh, for 11 o'clock at night, I'm doing pretty good. So, first off, Ben, I know you just wrote an article about the transfer portal. Can you kind of just quick dive into what you all wrote about in that?
Yeah, first it talks about the 2 guys they had this week. Some pretty good additions. We got former Utah point guard Riley Worcester, who has 1 year left to play, and former Rutgers guard Gavin Griffiths, who has 3 years left to play. Worcester, he's really experienced to start over 100 career games. Played for Craig Smith all of his college career, former Nebraska assistant. Only was limited to 16 games last season, but in those games, averaged about 10 points, 5.5 assists. Utah was really good with him, and they kind of went off the rails a little bit without him. And then Griffiths, he kind of struggled, but a lot of upside, a 6'8" guard. He was touted as a sharpshooter coming out of high school, top 50 consensus recruit. I think in Fred Hoiberg's system, he has a lot more potential than he did in Rutgers' system. And then I also dove into some of the prospects that they're still contacting, setting up visits for, and there's quite a solid list of guys there.
So Ben, I mean, where does Chucky Hepburn news come from? And is he coming to Nebraska? Because I saw a lot of people on Twitter today saying, "Oh, he's coming to Nebraska. All of his high school buddies are coming to Nebraska, or they're all going to Creighton." And I'm just like, I'm not convinced. What say you?
I don't think any of them, except maybe William Kyle, are coming to Creighton or Nebraska. I think Fiddler is. Things are trending towards Michigan State along with Chucky, especially with the AJ Hogarth news today.
Yeah. I think that. I mean, if you're Michigan State, you got to feel pretty good bringing both of those guys in. I think Fiddler's a great player. I think he tends to get a little overrated. I'm assuming that he got more. He expected to get a little more value in the transfer portal than he ended up getting, but still a very good player to bring in there. And I mean, Chucky, we know what Chucky can do. I think he just had accepted kind of a new role this season at Wisconsin, and you put him in a Michigan State uniform, and I think that would work well. For Wisconsin, I mean, a brutal offseason for them. AJ Storr and Chucky leaving. Just you never want to see that if you're Wisconsin. What's kind of your look on the Big Ten going forward, Ben? Like, is a lot of teams have lost a lot of players at this point. Nebraska, one of them. But of the guys that they've been able to bring in, do you think Nebraska's got a good chance to compete with some of these teams that are not going to be as good as they were last year? Like, I mean, Illinois, Wisconsin, and Purdue are all losing their best players. Mm-hmm. They're going to rebuild. Those programs will rebuild well. But again, Nebraska keeps their core, as you would say, outside of Tominaga. So do you think they have a good chance going forward, Ben?
Yeah, they're a really deep team. They're all really experienced from what they have right now. And a lot of guys they're targeting are really experienced Power 5 guys. They're getting a lot of shooters. So they're kind of playing to their strengths from last year. Very good three-point shooting team. They're really looking to add guys that can shoot, stretch the floor. Next season, there's not going to be many guys on the floor that can't shoot the three. And they're going to be really competitive. These guys want to compete. They want to get back to the tournament, and they want to get that first tournament win.
Talk about that Griffiths ad. I mean, I saw a lot of debate about him because didn't necessarily live up to expectations as a freshman at Rutgers. But then you got to think it's Rutgers and he's a freshman. Yeah. And they had a terrible offense that couldn't shoot three. So it's not surprising that he wasn't a great shooter and didn't average many points. I really like his upside, though, age-wise, because, Ben, as you noted this week, this is an aging roster. Like, next season is the year you have to do it because theoretically, if they bring back Mast, you have Mast, Gary, Williams, Worcester, and Morgan, who they just brought in, all of which have 1 year of eligibility remaining, and then you go down to freshmen. So I think bringing in a guy who has D1 experience but still has 3 years of growth ahead of him was a really solid move. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, they really struggled with their offense last season. He kind of got lost in it. In his first start of the season, early in the year, he had like 24 points, and even late in the season when they gave him more of a bigger role, he didn't play terrible. I mean, he got like 10 points, 16 points in their Big Ten tournament loss. I mean, if you give him chances, I think he can produce, especially in a Fred Hoiberg offense coming off the bench. I think he'd be a big spark for them.
Yeah, I mean, he's 6'8" guard. Like, size is what Nebraska needed. I think they still need more athleticism. Ben, would you agree with that? I think at this point, you still need some more athleticism if you want to compete with the Texas A&Ms of the world, especially because you don't have the shooting yet that they have last year. Like, you're not bringing any super high caliber shooters. I'm sure more of that is on the way. But you got to feel good about Griffiths. Number 33 player in the country coming into college. Just couldn't find rhythm last season. And I think in a Hoiberg system, he's gonna grow quite a bit. I'm not saying he's gonna be spectacular and live up necessarily to that billing, but I think looking after one season, there's not much to be concerned about.
No, there's not. I mean, but again, like you said, a lot of potential. Speaking of 3-point shot, I mean, like you said, they really haven't brought in that many 3-point shooters. No. And the one post that, I mean, in Mass, don't even know if he's going to come back. Ben, what's kind of your read on Mass? Are you kind of feeling like Mass is going to stick around, or do you feel like he's kind of what mulling over decision? Like, what is your read on that situation?
Just like reading the tea leaves here, it seems like he's leaning towards coming back, but then there's still the option of surgery, and that adds a whole another variable into the situation. So really, I don't know how the team is planning for Mast next season. One of the guys they're targeting, Igor Milicic, is very similar to Mast. So it's really hard to read what they think Mast is going to do next year.
Yeah, Milicic, 8.5 rebounds a game. I mean, that's, again, at Charlotte, former teammate with Bryce Williams, but you got to like that one. Yeah, I just think you got to operate as if Mast is not coming back at this point, because people are signing, and if he's gonna take his time there, you got to have a backup option, because you can't currently roll with what you have unless you want to go like Gary at the 4. So
I mean, yeah, with their current roster construction, they would definitely have to go smaller, which I don't feel Corbett wants to do that, because he went big towards the end of his last season. I
mean, not tiny. I mean, you still have a 6'8" guard in Griffiths and Williams.
I get it, but still, it's Gary at the 4 is viable. I just don't think that's what Hoiberg wants. But agree. Speaking of players signing places, Eli Rice finally landed somewhere. He's at Penn State. Do you have anything to say about that, Ben?
I mean, it feels weird kind of a lateral move in the conference, going down from one of the higher rated teams in the conference to one of the lower ones. But I mean, that's probably an opportunity for him. Mike Rhodes is a good coach. He's had success. He can get a solid spot in the rotation. He showed flashes last year, and he has a lot of potential. He could be a nice combo guard forward type of player for them. And it'll be interesting to see how he produces.
Yeah, I thought that one was so interesting, because it felt like he was going to have a role.
Definitely.
And I don't think yet, like, my thought was like, oh, he knows they're bringing in someone that's going to take his spot.
But they really haven't.
But at this point, I don't feel like they have. One guy I want to ask you about, Ben, is Pharrell Payne. There's been, some rumors, still on the radar, hasn't set a visit date yet. But I think that would be a great get. Do you think the Huskers have any chance with him there, or maybe he's looking somewhere else?
Yeah, I think we need to focus on getting him on campus first. Indiana was a big name that people were throwing around, but with them getting Omar Ballo this past week, it seems like that's kind of out of the picture.
Yeah,
and he visited Oregon this week. And I've heard Texas A&M is also in on him. So there's a lot of teams that want Payne, but I think the Huskers are still on the radar.
Yeah, I was really impressed. Ben remembers when I was a little bit too bashful about Minnesota going into that game.
You were, and then they lost by like what, 20 over, like high 20s.
I think overall the Minnesota that we saw this season was a big step up from where they've been in years past. And part of that was the development of Payne, who they hadn't expected, because Ola Joseph had been in there. Who's another guy that? Is there any update on Ola Joseph, by the way, Ben? I haven't seen anything.
There hasn't been much since his visit. I know he had an in-home visit with Mississippi State, but there hasn't been a lot of chatter about him recently.
Gotcha. I mean, I think bringing in either one of those guys would be a smart move. But yeah, what Ola Joseph coming into the season as a starter, Payne completely takes over his minutes, and that guy is physical. Like, that is the kind of 4 that you want down there to beat a team like Texas State. Like, he's a guy that you feel confident stepping in and playing defense and blocking shots.
But yeah, I mean, but what is the biggest need on this Nebraska roster, though? Is it even that post spot? Because right now I feel like it's a scoring guard. I feel like Nebraska is going to struggle on offense if they don't get a perimeter guard. Because, like you said, they haven't really brought in any good 3-point shooters.
Right.
They don't. I mean, your guards is like, Bryce Williams isn't a perimeter guy. Gary's not a guy that's going to be on the perimeter too much.
No, I mean, it's going to take a step. If they don't add another shooter, you're going to take a step back. But you haven't had a distributor like you're going to have this upcoming season, so that's going to change the way the offense looks. And here's my thing, and Ben, I want to get your thoughts on this. I think Hoiberg's saying, okay, we might, if we don't have the same level of shooting that we lose with guys like Lawrence and Wilcher, who can get streaky, and Tominaga, who is a lot, more consistent, but still at times streaky, then we're not going to necessarily pull off those top 10 upsets like they did this year. But I think he's like, we have a better chance to compete in the tournament if we are not so reliant on the three ball, still great on defense and able to distribute the ball a little bit more. That's kind of my read on it. Ben, what do you think from the moves so far? What do you think Hoiberg's kind of idea is going in the next season?
I think we'll stretch the floor at all 5 positions. Obviously, Worcester isn't really that good of a shooter, but recently the guys he's been contacting, he's really looking for an elite shooter. He contacted Villanova's Brendan Housen. Seems like they're setting up a visit. And Connor Essegian was reportedly on campus today. I really didn't know anything about that.
Oh, interesting. I've not seen that. Missed that on the busy day.
Washit post something about that today. Yeah, it really came out of nowhere. But that would be another guy who kind of lost his role this year with Storr coming in. Had a really good freshman season. I think he kind of finds his rhythm here. He'd be a great scoring guard.
I mean, Nebraska's familiar with him. That was the game in Madison where he went off, and it was like, oh, there's the Connor Essegian that we know, and we didn't really see it the rest of the season. So if he could shoot like that and Nebraska could potentially bring him in, that would be, I had not seen that, but I think that would be a great move as well.
That would be a pretty big move, but like you said, out of all the moves they've made, they really haven't made a move that's moved the needle, and that's Gorilla Bear on the text line agrees with that, saying, don't think one player in Nebraska has added moves the needle, need an athletic big, and still someone who can shoot or get to the bucket. Ben, what do you because, I feel like those are the 2 biggest needs.
Yeah.
Is that kind of your read on it too, Ben?
I think a lot of people are counting out the possibility of Bryce Williams taking a big step up. I think Bryce Williams showed flashes that he can be a all Big Ten caliber player. I think they're really expecting him to be kind of the guy. And they're kind of surrounding their core with sort of role players. It's going to be a team full of role players, but if everyone can play their role well, I think this team can be great.
Yeah, that's how Hoiberg has that's what's worked, and that worked last season. Again, like none of these guys going into last offseason, I don't think we were like, do any of these guys really push the needle?
And none of them really did. It was just like,
but it was
the collective depth of the team and the 3-point shooting. That's, I feel like, what we underestimated was how good of a 3-point shooting team that they were going to be. I don't see that as the same thing for this team, which is why I really feel like they need a perimeter guard. Yes, I agree with you. Bryce Williams can definitely improve, and he will probably improve, but he's still not like he's just not a guy, though, that's going to get a shot on the perimeter. He's a guy that's going to get to the rim. He's an athletic, bigger guard.
Yeah, but I think you saw over the course of the last couple weeks of the season that he really he knocked down some big shots, especially.
But I'm saying,
he's the only reason that tournament game was even close at all.
I agree with you. I love Bryce Williams. I honestly feel like he might even be a bigger part of the team than Juwan Gary. Like, they're neck and neck, in my opinion. Those are the 2 best players.
I think down the line it was Williams for sure.
Juwan Gary and Bryce Williams. Those are the 2 best players on the roster. Way back, everyone was saying Mass at the beginning of the year. He kind of declined a little bit towards the end of the year, but I loved Bryce Williams the entire year. He's still just not a guy, though, that, like, I feel like at the end of the game, clutch shot, you need one. He's not going to be a guy that's going to, take a mid-range jumper, a contested mid-range jumper. Like, he's going to be a guy that's going to have to get to the rim to get buckets, which that Nebraska needed that last year, and he played that role great. And I want him to keep doing that, play to his strengths, but they still need a guy like Tominaga who, can hit just like a crazy shot. And like when you really need something.
That's fair, but I think in the Big Ten, you don't often see that shooter role come from a star player. It's often a 6-man.
But not only did they lose Tominaga, they also lost Wilcher.
Yes, I agree. But I don't think we can sit here and say Wilcher and Lawrence are not replaceable pieces.
No, they are.
And I think they
haven't.
I'm going to hold judgment until this full roster is completed. And I don't think, for the people that don't think Fred Hoiberg knows what he's doing, the way that he was able to craft this year's team with guys that had just from all over the place that were not, I mean, people didn't expect these guys. I mean, these guys weren't on most people's radars. So I think I trust him. I want to ask you, Ben, about kind of a weird one. John Hugley, another weird situation, because didn't he have another visit scheduled the same as last offseason? What was the deal with that?
Yeah, last offseason, it's been the same situation the past 2 off seasons. We have a visit set up with him, and then he just commits with Oklahoma last season, and then he had his Xavier visit midweek again, and he must have loved what he saw. I knew Xavier was in on him last cycle, and I guess maybe we should have gotten to him first because maybe we could have gotten him, but Xavier scooped him up. And once again, he will not be visiting Lincoln.
Never made the trip. Someone we haven't talked about is Aaron Eulis yet. And I think that's someone that slips a lot of Husker fans' minds at times. I'm not sure what the exact latest is on him. We've yet to get official word about if he's going to have, eligibility going into next season. But if that 1 year suspension's over. So, I mean, Ben, if they're able to get Eulis, do you think he can play a significant role on this team? Obviously, you have to bring in a point guard because there's no official word yet. So they bring in Worcester. But do you think Eulis in a year in that system, a year being around the core of guys, can play a role next season?
I think if he is cleared, he will be the backup to Worcester. I can't see a guy like Worcester who has started his whole career coming in to be a backup. I think he knows that even if Eulis plays, he will be the guy at the 1. But Eulis could be, they even have one distributor last season. Having Eulis as a backup distributor, that's just a luxury that they have this season. I
just think that's going to step up the offense so much because you don't just have to rely on Bryce Williams or Juwan Gary driving to the basket and praying that Master or Alec are able to pull down a rebound without it like bouncing off someone's head.
I'm a little worried about the spacing though still because they don't have this is what I'm saying. Like teams that don't have a star player have to rely on ball movement and being able to hit shots from deep. And they have now distributors, but do they have the guys that can hit shots from deep yet? They don't. That's honestly, that might be their biggest needs. Is guys that can hit it from downtown because they just don't have that many.
The key word is yet though, Ben.
I get it.
They've
but
still got a lot of spots left on this roster.
I know. But I'm not going to sit here and praise any of these roles until they do fill that. Because I like these players individually. I don't know how great of a fit it's going to be with Worcester and, let's say, Bryce Williams. Like, how great of a fit is that going to be?
We don't know, but I'll say this. You cannot look at this team. I just don't think you can criticize the lack of star power given what Hoiberg knows. He has done the bring in the star power, bring in the star point guard, bring in the 5-star recruit. It didn't work. And last season worked. And so I think you have to trust that he's able to pull these pieces. He's still got scholarship spots to fill. I think he will fill them with a physical big and a shooter. It might not be his first choice because, again, still hard to convince guys to come to Lincoln, Nebraska at this point. They haven't won a tournament game. They haven't had that sustained success. I think it's getting easier. The guys like that NBA background that he has, and they like the fan base, and they like the potential that they have here to make a difference. But, you're still not pulling the same as many of these Big Ten teams that have these historical programs.
And that's kind of the thing. It's I do trust Hoiberg to know what guys are going to be able to fit. Is he actually going to be able to get those guys? Because the transfer portal is so just it can completely boost your team like it did this last season. Or if you don't hit on too many of them, Nebraska could turn into another middle of the pack or bottom of the barrel Big Ten team. I wouldn't be surprised if this is a middle of the pack Big Ten team if they if they don't find the exact right pieces at all these positions.
I just think there's so few Big Ten teams that are returning their core, though. You look across the league, how many of the best teams lost their best player?
That is true.
And I don't think Nebraska did. Tominaga
was a big loss.
He's a big loss, but I really think that the core was Williams and Gary. And so I think it was huge to keep both of those guys potentially masked. and develop and build around them now knowing what they're able to do. I mean, you look at this team now, all of these guys are transfers. Like Hoiberg knows that you cannot necessarily build from the ground up in Nebraska. And so he's like, all right, I'm going to take advantage of the portal. And it's worked off so far. Ben, what was kind of your read on the losses? I mean, there were a lot of guys that left. In my view, it wasn't as much of a like, oh no, all these guys are, jumping ship, but almost like they know that they might not have that same role because Nebraska's bringing in someone better. What was your read on all the departures? Because there were a lot of them, and it was kind of shocking.
I mean, all the guys who entered the portal, only 2 were real rotational guys with Lawrence and Wiltshire, and then you have Rice, who got some minutes sometimes, had the injury towards the end of the season. But these were, Wiltshire was probably the biggest loss because he was a real big spark plug off the bench with his 3-point shooting. But, shooting is probably the most replicable thing you can get in basketball. He wasn't the most athletic guy on the floor, wasn't the greatest defender, wasn't a great rebounder.
And so inconsistent as well, especially down the stretch, for sure.
Yeah, I think they're really going to be able to replicate his shooting in a guy like Hausen, Recision, get guys that have more years to play. And Lawrence, I think Griffiths can kind of fill that role, kind of a streaky player, not the most consistent guy, but can really be one of the best players on the floor when he's on.
Yeah, I mean, I viewed it as, yes, there was concern because of that age impact, but they had plenty of time watching these guys develop, and maybe Hoiberg's just like, these guys are not ready to play in my system, and you guys can sit again for another year and develop, but we're going to bring in more guys. But we got to get to break, Ben.
Yeah, we're going to throw it to break. Ben, thank you for joining us on the Allo VIP line. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your night. All right, we're going to throw it to break, and next segment, we're going to get Joseph's is going to have a profile. It's going to be coming out tomorrow, right? It's
coming out in 35 minutes, Ben, at midnight.
Oh yeah, 35 minutes. So right when we wrap up that segment, it'll be like 10 minutes.
It'll be
you're gonna have to check it out. So we're gonna get the break and we're gonna cover his profile this next segment right here on the Daily Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Serve Nebraska believes that volunteers are part of what makes Nebraska great. Each year, the Step Forward Awards honors volunteers from across the state who serve their communities in outstanding ways. We hope you'll join us this year at the Step Forward Awards luncheon on October 27th in Omaha. Help us thank volunteers with a celebration to remember. To register, visit serve.nebraska.gov and click Register Now. We hope to see you there. Paid for by Serve Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
The Omaha Supernovas are back in action this Saturday, April 20th versus the San Diego Mojo at CHI Health Center in Omaha. The Mullen Motors pregame show with Derek Pearson and Renee Saunders starts at 5 p.m. with first serve at 6. Make sure to tune in to the next Ag Appraisal and Realty postgame show right after the match ends. Catch all the action on your flagship station, 93.7 The Ticket, and statewide on the Supernovas Radio Network.
Hey, Nebraska! Register today for the 40th annual Cornhusker State Games, taking place July 11th through the 21st in Lincoln, Omaha, and other Nebraska communities. The Cornhusker State Games features 70 sports for athletes of all ages and abilities. Price increases are approaching, so register early and save. For details, go to cornhuskerstategames.com. Special thanks to Platinum Partner Farmers Mutual of Nebraska, delivering dependable insurance coverage for your auto, farm, and home for over 130 years. Farmers Mutual of Nebraska, always alongside you.
When you're high, you feel different. You think different, you talk different, you draw different, you listen to music different, but you probably knew that. Problem is, you also drive different, and not in a good way. That's why driving high is illegal everywhere. So if you're high, just don't drive. Make a plan to get a sober ride. Because if you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Here you go. Coffee's on me and my new BFF. I thought I was your best friend forever. BFF like best financial friend at Members Owned Credit Union. Right now, they're offering $100 when you consolidate or transfer a loan or an existing credit card balance and meet requirements. Plus, you get great rates and free advice from a financial partner that will put you first. That sounds like a match made in heaven. Members-Owned Credit Union is the type of bestie you can count on. Get started today at memberzonecu.org/BFF. Limitations may apply. Equal housing opportunity.
At Parkview Animal Hospital in Lincoln, it's not just the professional care that sets them apart, but their warm staff and state-of-the-art facilities. Whether it's for a routine checkup or a comprehensive medical procedure, at Parkview, your pet isn't just another number, but a valued member of their caring family. Visit them at pahlincoln.com today and in person just south of 14th and Pine Lake Road. Parkview Animal Hospital, your pet, our passion. For happier, healthier furry friends.
You never think cancer will happen to you. I smoked for over 40 years. My doctor recommended that I get annual lung cancer screening. They were able to catch my cancer at stage 1. It's never too late to quit. Even if you're still smoking, you need to ask your doctor about annual lung cancer screening. Just 30 minutes a year could save your life.
Call the Nebraska Tobacco Quit Line, 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-784-8669. Paid for by Tobacco Free Nebraska. Aired with the Nebraska Broadcasters Association and this station.
Hello? Believe it or not, old phones are one of the most common pain points in offices today. Many of these phones are beyond repair because parts aren't available to fix outdated devices. Whether it's a traditional phone system or cloud-based VoIP technology, Hamilton Business Phones can help upgrade your connection. We make it easy to sync your office phone with your cell for seamless call handling, no matter where you work. If your current office phone can't do this, you deserve better. Hire your local experts. Hire Hamilton at hamiltonisbusiness.com.
Hey guys, Jake Sorensen here from Early Break. The garage door at our house has been needing replacement for a couple years, and a few months ago, we finally did something about it. Steve's Garage Doors and Services was great through the whole process in providing options and also going to the next level to get a door that was approved by our HOA. And best of all, the removal of the old door and installation of the new door was done smoothly with no issues. Call Steve's Garage Doors and Services today at 402-480-2840.
The captain, Vershawn Jackson.
Mike Minner, what's up, bro?
When you look at Dylan, you're looking at quarterbacks that kind of come around once every 20 years. And this is a kid I'm looking at, I don't know how old he is, 17, 18 years old. And he is already directing things that 17, 18-year-old kids should not even know. Changing the line protection. Okay, guys, I don't know where we've been 2 weeks of practice. Come on, man. Well, we got guys in the National Football League that can't do that.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Hello and welcome back into the Daily Nebraskan Show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. We're in our second segment. Just got done with Nebraska ball talk, Nebraska ball.
It's never ending, Ben. I mean,
it's never ending. Nebraska ball, never ending. Transfer portal talk. But now we can get into different sport because you wrote a profile on Husker gymnast Cooper Giles, right?
Yes, sir.
How was that?
It kind of, so I started because, so you go back 2 weeks at the men's gymnastics Big Ten championships and 2 Huskers, Cooper and Taylor Christopoulos, won medals. And so I was like, okay, that's cool. No one's really covering that. So I'm like, I'm going to get in contact, write a story about, pretty basic, just like, oh, you win a medal, you're going to the championships, kind of basic stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I get on the phone with Cooper and immediately I was like, this dude knows how to talk. I mean, you'll have the times where you get in a feature story. And I think sometimes this might be as student journalists, it's just like your peers. And so it doesn't seem like an interview because it's like talking to literally someone who is your age. And that is what is so fun about doing student journalism.
Oh yeah.
It's like, these guys are so much cooler than me because I'm writing about them and they're doing it.
No, like in my history, it's just like it just seems. I feel like honestly, the fact that we're students might even help it even more because it might be more intimidating for them for a reporter that's been on the job for 20 years compared to us who we could be in the same class as them.
Oh, I've been in classes. I've had classmates that are athletes.
Same.
And So fun. I mean, it's just
like it's like, wait, that's Harper Murray. I'm like,
you're in my class. Like, oh, it's such a fun time. But anyway, so working on this story, and I got to chat with Cooper, and I sat down with him on the phone, and he kind of just gave me everything, and it was awesome. I mean, he opened up about his whole story, and so I was super excited to write this one. It'll be on the website in 27 minutes. It's out tomorrow morning, but at midnight. And it is a story of heartbreak and pain and adversity and how he overcame it. Because for people who don't know much about men's gymnastics, there's not that many teams in the country. So Nebraska is lucky to have a team.
How many? I mean, there's not even that many teams in the Big Ten.
No, I believe there's only 20. I forget the exact number, but 20-ish teams in all of men's gymnastics around the country. So there is the talent level is so high that there's not as many opportunities. So you have to be really, really good at your craft to even get a scholarship anywhere. And so that kind of drives up the talent, makes it very interesting. But Cooper got here in the 2020 season, so the 2019-2020. First year canceled because of COVID. Second year, no fans in Devaney, trying to build up, train, learn how to be a gymnast. And then early in 2022, 2 meets into the season, he has a practice. His arm feels like tight. He notices a slight purple discoloration in his arm. And mind you, he's telling me this, and I'm like, oh my God. Like, I was not expecting to know about this because it just says on the website he had an injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he traveled to Michigan for a competition, not thinking much of it. Flies back to Lincoln. His arm had become completely swollen. And so went and got an ultrasound, showed multiple blood clots in one of the veins, just like above his collarbone.
Bro.
Immediately had surgery to remove him and was put on blood thinner. So
that's scary.
Like, this is not like a gymnastics injury, like, oh, I'm out for gymnastics. Like, this is a life. I mean, blood clots are life-threatening. And when you're on blood thinners, like, it's a very, very serious thing.
You can't compete in sports if you're on blood. Like, I remember, I just bring up this example because I'm a Heat fan, but Chris Bosh, the Heat extended him max contract like 5 years. And then like 1 year into it, he had blood clots. And he and you can't play.
No, because you cut yourself on blood clots. You
literally could bleed out.
Yes. And so immediately, like, oh my goodness. And that was kind of shock all over the team. And so I talked to Coach Shamelka, Chuck Shamelka, the head coach, talked to Coach John Robinson. That's Cooper's like group coach. He's an assistant coach on the team. And Cooper just said Coach Robinson was just like his rock through all of this. But both of them were like devastated when they got this news. Like, they were in denial. Like, he is way too young, prime physical specimen, like full on gymnast. Like, to be a gymnast, the core strength, the arm strength, the upper body strength, the mental strength.
Just watch some of the videos.
You have to be at the top of your game to even have a chance at competing, especially at the collegiate level. And yet he has this blood clot diagnosis that kind of just shakes the whole locker room. So they're not sure exactly what causes it, but the repeated stress on his arms likely played a factor. He has a condition that has like the compression of his nerves. And while it's not common to get blood clots from that, it's possible.
Is it even hereditary or something? I don't even know.
He said it was not a disease. It was a structural issue. Okay. So, and that's a good thing, because if it's a disease, then he would not be able to compete again because the risk of injury.
I think that was with like the Chris Bosh example again. I'm pretty sure that was like disease. So like he can't play again. But that's good news that it's not that.
Yeah. So then that was 2 seasons ago. He's like considering quitting. Like, this is a serious, right? Like, you have to come back from that. The mental strength to come back from a literally his arm turned purple. To come back from this life-threatening, scary, scary, scary situation after already having 2 years of COVID and uncertainty and what's going on. And he's like, I worked my entire life to get to be a collegiate gymnast.
He wants to do it.
And I've had 2 seasons that have been bizarre with COVID. And my 3rd season, I get blood clots, have to, stop two meets into the season. So then he's like, I can't quit after that. And that moment, and you could tell in his voice, it was just like determination. And it's almost like you can't really write a better story than that.
No.
Because it's so almost cliche, right? Like terrible, terrible situation. And he's just like, okay, I'm going to channel this into my momentum. And so this season has been an incredible year for the team. They won the regular season Big Ten championship for the first time ever. They've never won a Big Ten championship. They won like a championship. It wasn't the Big Ten, not even the Big 8 for gymnastics back in, I believe, 2001. And so this is a historic year for this team. And they have a real chance. The NCAAs start tomorrow and they go till Saturday. They have a real chance of competing for the national title. And they think they can do it.
There's a lot of talent on that team.
And they're like, yeah, the job's not finished. Like they medaled, they won the Big Ten championship, but there's still lots more to do. But yeah, I mean, the guy he's from a suburb of Chicago, and he had been training for this. Like he wanted to be a gymnast forever. And, you know, he told me that he remembers sitting at a meet where they had the junior athletes and the collegiate athletes, and they competed like at the same time. And he just remembers like watching them be like, yes, this is what I want to do. And so trained for his whole life, drove all the way across Chicago in rush hour traffic, doing homework in the car to be able to go to train, sacrifice that normal childhood, and it paid off. So he got there. 3 years in, he still hasn't done anything that he wants to do. So last season wasn't exactly what he expected, but then this season comes back for a 5th year, and it's like, all right, this is the time. And so, I mean, this guy is a fiery leader. He's loud. He's vocal, loves to hype up his team. He only does one event. He only does pommel horse. So when he's not on the pommel horse, all of his energy is being thrown at his teammates, hyping them up from the sideline. Because a lot of these guys, when they compete in multiple events, they're not able to expend their energy because they need to save it for their next event. But he's like, all right, I'll do my one. I'll do it incredibly well. And then I'm all in for the team. And so Coach Jamelka was he's like, oh, these guys love him. Like he literally said they would like crawl through fire for him. Yeah. And for him to come back and win that medal 2 weeks ago, just satisfaction, like to see that 5 years of work pay off and to win that medal on that routine was just so special for him, so special for the team. And I think overall, it's a good example of, again, a story that nobody's talking about, and there's so many of these on this campus.
Yeah. And that's what us at the DN are trying to do, is to tell these stories that no one is telling. Because I mean, the fact that like you have to have some crazy great mental to be able to come back from something like that,
especially in gymnastics, because it's such a mental sport. Like
exactly.
I was talking to him, like, even with the COVID stuff, like to come back from uncertainty, going into gymnastics, you need to be fully like in a meditative state almost, because you have to be so locked into every movement of your body. Whereas some sports is like, all right, I'm just going to get out there and be gritty, and I'm going to fight, and I'm going to fight through the pain. It's not as much. I mean, every sport has its mental capacity.
Oh yeah.
But gymnastics is almost an art in that way. And so, I mean, you see what they do. Like,
oh yeah,
you're flying through the air, holding on to, like, you're holding yourself by your arms. It's like I don't even understand it, to be honest.
See, this is the thing.
I spent all week on this story. I don't even understand gymnastics.
I feel like people in their mind, when they're like, you know, you're watching football or watching basketball, you're like, you know, they're like, sometimes you'd be like, okay, I could maybe do that. Like on basketball, like, you know, some people can make a basket in basketball, or people can run with the football. Gymnastics, your everyday person cannot just go and do the things they're doing.
I would love to see you on a pommel horse.
I don't want to see myself on that.
I think I could do. I'm trying to remember back to like when I was 4.
Nope, I can't.
Did you ever do like 4-year-old tumbling or anything?
I can't even do like, bro, pull-ups are like a no-no for me. Like, man, you think I could do any of these?
Oh my god,
moves?
The upper body strength is insane. But yeah, it was just such a cool story, and it was so unexpected for me because I was just going into it like just trying to get an idea of like, oh, what was that like? And then I just kind of flippantly asked like, oh, what was that injury that kept you out for the rest of the season? He's like, yeah, I had blood clots. I'm like, whoa, okay, this changes the entire angle of my story.
Oh, yeah.
And just such a genuine dude. Just gave just such like artistically real answers, if that kind of makes sense. Like,
no, yeah, like real,
genuine,
genuine, real, yeah.
but still crafty and like the stuff that he gave me was just so powerful. I was like, I have to shape this story around it. And I think it's a good read, and it was a fun one to write. A little quick. Usually, I like to have more time to write these, but you normally don't have a deadline on a profile or feature because you kind of have time. But I was like, perfect timing. The Big Ten, the NCAA championships are tomorrow, so I'm like, okay, let's get this out before then, and I was able to do that. So
make sure to check it out on the DN website. It's gonna be posting tonight, midnight, Friday morning. So literally in 17 minutes, it's gonna get posted. Make sure to check it out on the DN's website. But with that, we got to throw it to break. When we come back, we're going to finish the show with some NBA playoff talk because
so excited.
It's been going. We've done playoff talk for like 3 straight shows, but a lot has been happening in the NBA.
We're going to have playoff. We could have potentially playoff talk for the next 2 months.
We need it. Same thing with the March Madness. We were doing March Madness so much.
I'm sure like we have no recycled opinions.
No.
We have fully unique opinions as student journalists.
It's gonna be awesome. Make sure to stay tuned in right here on the Dan Nebraskan Show on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
High schoolers, unleash your creativity and learn about potential careers in broadcasting at the Digital Expressions Media Camp. Have fun, make friends, and get hands-on experience with video and radio production June 9th through the 14th at the University of Nebraska at Kearney. Scholarships are available from the Nebraska Broadcasters Association, and spots are limited. Learn more at digitalexpressionscamp.com. That's digitalexpressionscamp.com.
Hi, Sean Callahan here of HuskerOnline.com, inviting you to join us here on 93.7 The Ticket every Saturday morning now. In our new time, we're on from 8 to 9 with the weekly Husker Online radio show. We'll give you the latest in recruiting. We'll talk about what's going on with both football, basketball, and we'll probably share a few stories from the inside. It's every Saturday morning right here on 93.7 The Ticket. It's the Husker Online radio show from 8 to 9 a.m.
1 in 3 adults has prediabetes. 1 in 3. That means it could be you, your football buddy, your football buddy, or you, your best man, your worst man, you, your dog walker, your cat jogger. While 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes, with early diagnosis, prediabetes can be reversed. Take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org. That's doihaveprediabetes.org.
Wait, did they just say 1 in 3 adults has prediabetes? That's 33.33333% of adults. That means it could be me, my boss, or my boss's boss, or me, my favorite sister, or my other sister. That's 7 members of my 21-person romantic book club. Wait, the 1 in 3 could be me, my karaoke partner Carol, or my karaoke enemy Jeff. I'm going to take the risk test at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council and its Prediabetes Awareness Partners.
When we're looking out for a homeowner, we're always keeping their budget in mind. We try to maximize things that are important to them.
Bob Benish is the founder and president of Aspen Builders, online at aspenbuildersinc.com.
So we really try to maximize the size because 5 years from now, you can't just make your house bigger. The one thing I can tell you is that most builders in Lincoln, we all are about the same price. The difference comes in the products that we put in and the way we put in those products. The old saying, you get what you pay for, is pretty accurate when you're building a home. If you put nicer windows in and you put nicer cabinets, it's going to cost a little bit more. You know, if those things are important to you, then you want to do it. We can try to incorporate in your floor plan and get a house that you're going to be happy with.
Make your dream home a reality and call Aspen Builders at 423-6811. Online at aspenbuildersinc.com. Your home is waiting at Aspen Builders.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 a.m, my phone rang. They said, I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action. Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
It's getting nicer outside, but it's still hit or miss in the spring on golf weather. Not at Double Eagle Golf. You're home for always 72-degree weather with no wind. Book a bay with some friends for a weekend or come by for golf and happy hour on a weekday. Spring leagues are underway, but stay tuned for info on indoor golf tournaments and book your bay for after the spring game in late April. That's all at Double Eagle Golf inside the Kinetic Sports Complex on West O Street. Online at doubleeagle.golf. The Omaha Supernovas are back in action this Saturday, April 20th versus the San Diego Mojo at CHI Health Center in Omaha. The Mullen Motors pregame show with Derek Pearson and Renee Saunders starts at 5 p.m. with first serve at 6. Make sure to tune in to the next Ag Appraisal and Realty postgame show right after the match ends. Catch all the action on your flagship station, 93.7 The Ticket, and statewide on the Supernovas Radio Network.
Back to the Ticket weeknights on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into the Daily Nebraskan show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com. One last segment here. Ben and Joseph still here with you. We're going to wrap up the show with some NBA talk because play-in almost done and playoffs right around the corner.
So excited.
The play-in has already kind of been interesting. The Hawks losing to the Bulls, that was the least interesting thing that happened. But the Bulls actually played pretty good. They didn't look that mid. And
it's hard to look mid against the Hawks.
You want to know why we're not going to get recycled content from yesterday's show? Because me and Anthony spent like 15 minutes on the Hawks because Anthony's a Hawks fan. So
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, brutal.
Sorry, Anthony. I feel bad for
36 and 46 should have hot take. This is super hot. 36 and 46 should have you nowhere near the playoff field. You should never even have a chance.
No, the bottom of the East.
I like the playoff in itself, or the play-in. But I'm not a person that cares a lot about the NBA regular season, and that's the problem, because the play-in attracts people like me who don't have time to pay attention to the regular season NBA. There's too many games, not enough meaningful games. Like, that's why I love college football, college basketball, and NFL. It's because every game means the world. When every game doesn't mean the world, and there's not enough games like baseball where it's like you can miss a few but make it to a lot and actually go to the games and stuff like that, and it's kind of more of an experience rather than watching the game. But the play-in is for the casual fan, because I'm like, okay, play-in starts on Tuesday. Now I can tune in, and I tune in for the next 2 months. And so I do love the NBA playoffs, but I don't love the NBA regular season because I just don't find the value in it, because I've followed the Timberwolves all season. I followed the Nuggets all season. I've watched a ton of Timberwolves games because thankfully I get them on our cable TV in my apartment, surprisingly. But then it's like, okay, so they did all that to still get the 3 seed. They could have won 5 less games and still got the 3 seed. And they'd be in the same spot they are now.
I mean, it's almost impossible, though, the only way to make it more interesting is the players take it more seriously. Because, to the players, the regular season doesn't seem like that big of a deal.
I guess here's what I'll say.
It used to be when, even just back to 2012 or something, when the Heat had LeBron and, Spurs were great. It's just the regular season getting that number 1 seed was a big deal. And now it just seems like, oh, okay, we made the playoffs. That's all we needed to do. It doesn't matter if we're a 1, a 2, or 7, or an 8. It's just just get in. And teams don't care about the regular season. I don't think it's on the NBA as a business. I just think it's the players realizing that there's no point in taking it seriously. And I don't know how the NBA could fix that.
I just don't think the play-in was the smartest move. I think adding more teams to the playoffs makes the regular season less meaningful. That's why I love the NFL playoffs the way they are now, because I love watching football games and I love watching playoff football, and more teams being in is better. But the more percentage of the teams that make the playoffs, the less meaningful it is to win these games. And I'm a bit of a hypocrite because my opinion about the college football playoff is a little different, because I like the more teams because there are so many. I just like the percentage of the teams. I mean, you look at this, everybody's team is in this field. You look at the screen that I have in front of me with all the play-in and playoff teams, everybody's team's here, unless you're a Wizards fan.
I mean,
are there Wizards fans?
Literally, you have to be a bottom of the barrel franchise to not even make play-in.
I get it. Like, the Kings-Warriors game was fun. The 76ers Heat game was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not for you.
Jimmy Butler. I feel bad.
It was the 76ers curse.
It is, man. They chose Tobias Harris over him, and now he's...
That's actually one of the craziest things I've ever heard, by the way.
Yeah, he actually said that.
Yeah, insane. Anyway, but I don't know. It's fun for this week, but then I'm like, so what was the whole point of the regular season?
The point of the regular season is that, I mean, the Celtics are 10 games above and tickets and...
But does that matter? I mean, does it matter if they're 10 games above?
No.
They don't get a bye.
The Celtics could fall...
They could get the Heat, and if in a perfect world, Jimmy Butler is healthy,
which he's not going to be.
I know, but I'm saying, like, the Heat very well could have lost that game and kept Jimmy Butler healthy. Then you go play the Celtics. What do you get for being the 1 seed? What do you get for winning literally 20 more games than the Heat? Nothing.
No. I mean, home court advantage, but, like, it's not even that.
It's a 7-game series.
But this is the thing. It's a 7-game series. Like, if it goes 7 games, the Heat get 3 and the Celtics get 4.
NBA playoffs are great. I love the NBA playoffs. Love the NHL playoffs. I don't love the regular season because you can tune out and only tune in for this 2 weeks. NFL, you have to tune in for every single game because you don't never know what's going to happen.
I mean, it's just because there's only 16
I know,
games,
I get it.
17 games.
It's an insolvable problem, Ben, but I just think about this every time. I'm like, I'm the problem with the NBA because I don't watch every single game.
I mean, it should be an even bigger deal for the MLB because they have 160 games.
MLB's a little different, though, because it's more of an experience.
That is true. But, I mean, I don't want them to cut their regular season games, though.
I don't either. I just think adding more playoff teams isn't always the answer.
No. The play-in is an experiment. I'm not completely opposed to it, but
it's going to keep going because it's entertaining.
But we got to wrap it up. Thank you for listening to the DN Show right here on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Garage doors can be expensive. Are you keeping yours in the best condition possible? This is Cameron Hall with Doors Plus. Doors Plus is a locally owned business that prides itself on the fast, reliable, and friendly service. Doors Plus